Football at 4, John McMullen at JF McMullen as the Eagles sign Carson Wentz, $128 million, 4-year extension, $107 million guaranteed money for Wentz. It's the largest guarantee given to an NFL player. And we'll dive into it now. 4 years, 128, 107 guaranteed, John. And why now? And why do you either A, like the deal, or B, dislike the deal?
I like the deal, and the Eagles got a bargain, which is tough to explain to people when you just kind of cite those numbers. Carson gets $66 million to sign a paper, and $107.9 million, which is the largest guaranteed money in NFL history. But that number will only last until the next contract, which could be Jared Goff, and if it's not Jared Goff, it will certainly be Patrick Mahomes. So that's just the way the NFL goes. You set the bar, and the next quarterback beats it. But if you look at this deal, it's a 4-year extension. So what the Eagles were able to do, and this is the brilliant part of it, is keep the final 2 years of his rookie deal. So essentially, they have Carson Wentz for the next 6 years through 2024 locked up. And when you look at it that way, the average annual value is just under $26 million. That's less than people like Jimmy Garoppolo and Kirk Cousins. So that's why it's a good deal.
So the deal doesn't actually start until 2021, right? He'll play 2 more years on his current deal, and then it will start. So essentially, this was a way, I'm asking, is this a way to manipulate the cap for the next couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, it helps the cap as a whole, because what you're able to do is spread out that large signing bonus over really 6 years. So a lot of the money, and as we get the official numbers and they'll trickle in, that's what you do. And that's what Howie and Jake Rosenberg have been great at, is manipulating the salary cap. Now, while I say that, this is still sort of the start of a different era for the Philadelphia Eagles. And even though it's a good deal, even though if you would have waited and Carson Wentz had a big year and stayed healthy, you would have been talking about numbers like $35 million a year, maybe $80 million guaranteed, as high as that. So you save money, but it still starts, as I said, there's significant money now at the quarterback position, and we've seen it in the past in other cities, whether it's Seattle, which has had a tremendous team in the past, Green Bay, with Aaron Rodgers, on and on and on and on. You got to build your roster differently, and it's more important to hit on younger players and get contributors on cost-effective rookie deals. So it does signal a shift, but it's the cost of doing business at this position in the NFL. And when you look at it that way, the Eagles got a bargain.
Yeah, well, and they have a lot of guys on offense signed for the next couple of years kind of in conjunction with them. So, I mean, maybe they don't have to – it's a shift, but maybe not a shift to having to get weapons for them. They got Alshon. They got DeSean Jackson. They got Zach Ertz. I mean, they've got their position guys locked up in conjunction with him now.
Well, they do, and guys like Miles Sanders and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, it's more important that you hit on those guys, and they have to be effective contributors. Not necessarily this season, but certainly by next season. And if that doesn't happen, then you're probably going to start to have some issues. So you have to – there's no more the back-to-back years of 5 draft picks. That's got to stop. It's got to be more draft-driven. So that part is fair to point out, and that's where the shift comes. But if you look at what Carson was due this year, and that's a little over $8 million, $22 million spiked till next year on the 5th-year option. So that's $30 million. Essentially, they bought 4 more years for another $36 million with the signing bonus. And if things go horribly wrong, which is not your hope, it's not as disastrous as people might expect.
John, what are some other details of the contract that maybe haven't been really put out there? We know the guaranteed money. We know the breakdown per year. Are there incentives involved, like MVP, Super Bowl, all of that stuff that you're aware of?
Yeah, he can make more if the Eagles do reach certain aspects of it. And I think the big part is at 100.7.9. You take out the $66 million, those guarantees don't start until the extension starts. So if people are concerned with the injury history, and that's it's a legitimate concern, not trying to downplay it, but as I always say, you can't legislate injuries, so you can't go about your business and be scared of that. But the Eagles have some safety nets in there. It's always crippling if the face of the franchise has that type of injury. It doesn't turn out to be what you want them to be. But I think people have to realize the people who are hand-wringing and clutching their pearls because of the size of this contract. Look, there's nobody out. Every single franchise quarterback in this league, the plan A for those teams, throw out the names you want to throw out. There's no plan B. That's what you do. You trust your evaluation, and you move forward. And that's what the Eagles did. And by doing it sooner rather than later, they saved money. And that's what they've been doing since the days of Joe Banner. That's what they believe in. They identify players they want, and they sign them early to save money.
How much money did they save? I know it's not tangible, it's not black and white, but you say the deal's a bargain. So is there a number that you were expecting to see come across your bottom line? And, how much flexibility do they have now? Like, how much more than you anticipated?
Well, I talked about this a lot with Mike. I said it's in Carson Wentz's court. Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman have been pretty upfront saying they would do this deal immediately, and I had ranked it in the range of 28 to 32 million. Turned out to be 32 million. If Carson Wentz decided to bet on himself and stayed healthy and played 16 games and played at an MVP type level as he did in 2017, then you start talking about astronomical numbers. Average annual value over 35 million, guarantees over 80 million. So if he is what the Eagles expect him to be, they saved significant money.
John, if you you mentioned Joe Banner, and he had tweeted out, you retweeted this, is that if you have a player you want, you go after him because waiting can make it more expensive. And there's some people that say, well, he has this injury history. Why not let him prove, that? But this is a clear indication the Eagles are past that. They don't have a problem with his injury history or anything. They wanted to jump out in front. And if anything, we know Howie Roseman is not going to make a move that is going to be detrimental to the team. This is a deal that they clearly thought they won, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, maybe not won, or at least thought was fair.
Yeah, I think it's. I think Carson could live on $66 million. I think it's fair from his standpoint, and from the team standpoint. It's team friendly. That's how it would be described, and that's what I've been saying on the show. If it's team friendly, the Eagles are going to sign the deal immediately. That's what happened. And that's what it is. These deals never go down. The only way Carson Wentz was going to make less money than this is if he does have a catastrophic injury. And if you want to play that game, like I said, you can't legislate injuries. People have been trying to do it for years. That's something you sort of have to give up the control of. And coaches talk about it all the time when they talk to players about the game itself. Control what you can control. The Eagles can't control that. The only thing they can control is the player they want, and by signing him early, you save money unless you have that catastrophe. If he plays well, I mean, if you're upset at $32 million, you're going to be upset at $36, $37 million. And if Patrick Mahomes decides to sign and say Carson Wentz has an MVP type year, we might be talking $40 million.
What, obviously this is an opinion question, but if he has a year similar to the year he had last year, where he was a very good quarterback, he wasn't an MVP level quarterback, did they then jump too early?
No, I mean that they did the exact same thing. If he has a season where even he's in the top 10, top 5, whatever you want to put it at, then the number starts at $1 more than Russell Wilson for an average annual value. That's how it works. So whoever the highest guy who sets the bar, the next one who comes along is you're going to start as his particular agent. You're going to start at $1 more than Russell Wilson, try to go up as high as possible. That's how it works, and we've seen it from time and time. We've seen it so quickly. Aaron Rodgers, then it goes to Ben Roethlisberger, then it goes to Russell Wilson. It could have went to Carson Wentz. He could have been the next name. So that's why the Eagles got a bargain. And you'll see it, as I said, when 2019, next off season, after this season, Patrick Mahomes, the hype will start on that, and he's going to set a whole new bar. And if you're in that same stratosphere, the numbers are going to be astronomical.
John, I have a quick two-part question for you. Number one, how important do you think it was for both the Eagles and Carson Wentz to get this deal done before this season, just so the media circus and the narrative can't be, questioning Doug or questioning Howie about maybe you don't, extend him if he gets hurt or if he struggles early on. Just get that in the rearview window. And then number two, what's the biggest adjustment or change you anticipate seeing from Wentz?
Well, I don't think it would have been a circus, because I think everybody who covers the team understood the situation. Look, if there's an injury, there's an injury. That's a circus whether he signs a contract or doesn't. It's just
I guess more from the
question.
fans. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different question. Are you concerned that he's injured again and you signed him for a long-term contract versus you signed him and he's injured again? So that just kind of shifts. And that's what I was talking about. That's something you can't control. I think it already started with Carson Wentz as far as taking back this team, as far as a leadership standpoint from when Nick Foles was here. And there was at least some fracture, more from the fan base than the players, although there were a few players. The organization never fractured at all. They were always Carson Wentz. They never looked at Nick Foles at all. So I think there were some difficulties from Carson's perspective, just because of the nature of the NFL. And all injured players will tell you this. When you're rehabbing, you sort of feel like you're not part of the team. And that can become more difficult at the quarterback position, because you're a leader by definition. You're the on-field leader. You're the leader of the football team. So if you're not with your teammates, that could be a difficult thing because you're off to the side rehabbing.
Yeah, John, and I know a lot of people have questioned this deal. I mean, a lot of people are wondering why they did it now. They get, and as I mentioned, he's been hurt. But, in the end, people, I think, lose sight of the fact that how good this guy was. We only remember what's the most recent thing. He wasn't. And it wasn't that he was bad last year. It's just that he wasn't MVP good, which is what he was the year before. People forget. I think people forget exactly how good he was because of what Foles did.
Yeah, no question. I'm always surprised by that. The team was 11-2. He was going to be the MVP, and it wasn't all that close. The Eagles had the inside track for home field advantage. They never get to that position if it isn't for Carson Wentz. They don't have home field. They're not going to be in the Super Bowl. Now, that said, Nick deserves all the credit in the world for finishing, and I've always compared it to Mariano Rivera, and he's the closer. But guess what? You need the starter to get to the closer, and that's what Carson was, and he threw 7 shutout innings. That's how I describe it. People forget it, and they only remember the last part of it. And you know, the team success wasn't there, and Carson was struggling with the back from pretty much week 7 on. But the numbers were still pretty good. I mean, from that standpoint, he performed. You would expect him to be healthy, certainly coming over a full year now, year and a half past the ACL and the LCL. So that part of it's going to be better. But I understand people are concerned with the injury history, and that's, as I said, that's legitimate. But
No.
This guy's good. He can play.
Now, what about his look? You know, we're just kind of pontificating now, but you look at DeSean Jackson adding that skill set and what he already has. Could we make a assertion that he could be better than he was 2 years ago with these weapons?
Yeah, I mean, this is the best group of weapons on paper he's had, and this is the best group of weapons the Eagles have had in the Doug Peterson era. And they fit together well. I've talked about it a lot. The biggest issue to me is making everybody happy and getting everybody the football. That could be the biggest problem. And how do you get Alshon Jeffrey and Zach Ertz and Nelson Aguilar, DeSean Jackson, Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert? How do you get all these players the football? There's only one football. That, to me, and that's Doug Peterson's job to manage sort of those egos, and that's what he's proven to be very good at. And I imagine he's already working on it because you know, you can kind of get through it with the younger players, and Miles specifically, and even Dallas Goedert as a second-year player. You could probably defer to you'll get your opportunity down the line. But when it comes to Ertz and Jeffrey and Jackson and even Aguilar, who's on a contract year, they want to get the football.
Now, real quick, which guy serves him best? Is he a tight end guy? Ertz? Is he a speedster guy? Jackson? Is he a hashtag guy? Aguilar, is he a throw the ball up, 50-50 ball? Alshon, I mean, which of the guys is kind of tailor-made for him?
Well, no question, it's Zach Ertz. I mean, those two are like peas in a pod to begin with. They're good friends. They have a tremendous chemistry on the field. And that's the guy he feels most comfortable with, and he should. I mean, Zach Ertz is always open, always catches the football. The traffic is amazing. The catch numbers are amazing. So that's the guy. That's where it starts. And Doug himself has always said his game planning starts with Zach Ertz and Alshon Jeffrey, 86 and 17. And it's going to be interesting this year because now you have DeSean Jackson. So you have to get DeSean involved. And I think DeSean is a guy to keep an eye on, only because in the past he tends to get unhappy when he doesn't get the football a lot. And I think he could be very successful. But if he's got, say, 2 catches for 80 yards, that might be best suited for the Eagles. But I don't know if he's going to be happy with that.
Yeah, John, you know, we're talking about all of the Eagles' personalities, the egos and the weapons now that Carson has at his disposal. How does he make his life easier, both on the field and in the locker room, dealing with all these personalities and weapons?
Well, Doug has talked about it a lot, and he's preached and he's been preaching to slow it down a little bit, both from an injury standpoint perspective and making everyone happy. And what he says is let the offense work for you and take what's there. So if the opposing defense is trying to take away Zach Ertz and double teaming him, go in a different direction. Don't hesitate to use other outlets, other options, even if it's a rookie out of the backfield like Miles Sanders. Let the offense work for you, and don't try to play what they say, hero football. And that's got to do more with the injury fact of it. If a play is not there, throw it away, live to play for the next down, so to speak. Don't try to hit a home run every single time, which is sort of Carson's type A personality and has gotten him in trouble. He's taken some hits in the past, and you probably want to alleviate that as his career moves on.
John McMullen with more on the Carson Wentz signing at 97.3 ESPN.com. He says the Eagles get ahead of the curve with Wentz. Read more about it on our website or follow John on Twitter at JF McMullen. And, of course, football at 4 every day. We talk NFL, and the Eagles give us a major reason to talk football. Last night they signed Wentz to a 4-year, $128 million extension that keeps Carson in Philly through 2024. And, of course, the mandatory mini camps begin on Tuesday, and we'll have plenty of coverage of that right here on the Sports Bash. Okay, John, enjoy the weekend, man. We'll talk to you Monday.
All right, thanks, guys.